Good afternoon. It's time for yet another NFL Bucky's Mail Day. The show is Mike Steen, of course, the star of the show, as always, is Bucky. Say hi, Bucky. Bucky says hi. Bucky, what do you have in front of you or on you today? Well, this is one of Suki's toys. It's called a knot, and it's just a big piece of twine wrapped up. And why do you have that in front of you, Bucky? Well, because my stomach was in knots yesterday watching the Lions versus the 49ers game. The Lions lost 34-31. And it was a microcosm of the Lions season, I believe. They got off to one of the best starts I've ever seen them have. Just dominated the first half over San Francisco. Touchdowns, stops. They're up by 17 points at one time. Montgomery got a touchdown. Gibbs got a touchdown. I mean, they're just going all over the place. J-Mo got a touchdown. And where it became the microcosm was the mistakes that they made. And I admit there was a couple fluky plays that wouldn't happen again if you tried 100 times. Like the reception that Brandon Ayuk made, it literally bounced off a guy's face mask. And he still caught it. It's like, really? Like, come on. But those are the kind of breaks that will kill you or make your game. And the 49ers got most of the breaks in that game. Some bad coaching decision, questionable coaching decision. Here's the microcosm. Campbell's bold decision to go out on fourth down instead of either punt or go for field goals. And this time, he's known as a gambler, and this time it backfired. So it's hard to question those because he did it all the time. Is the right decision? Not always, and not these times. He should have. It's for sure. Try to, no guarantee he's going to make the field goal, but you're going to give up that field position anyway, so you might as well try and score. But they squandered a 17-point lead, and I was not celebrating. I was not overconfident because there's a lot of time left, and things can happen. And sure enough, that's what happened. Another problem, Mike Conley was dropped passes. Did Goff had a great game? Not one of his best, but an okay enough to win game. Some was passed because he was hurried. A little off target, but a couple of them hit. Players were right in the hands, and they should have had him. Or a little behind him. You got to make those. You got to make those plays. And one of them was on one of the fourth down plays. You got to come up with those, and they did not. And to give the 49ers credit, they could have just said, you know what, it's not our day, and just packed it in the second half. They did not do that. But it was very entertaining game. It was fun to watch, and I will admit there's a few choice words that I dropped, and I apologize to the factors that be. But it was a great season. It was better than just about everybody predicted. I believe they won 14 games, including 2 playoff games. And they were this close to getting to the Super Bowl, a half away to getting to the Super Bowl. Now, earlier in the day, the Chiefs, and it was not a great game. Chiefs defense actually played very well, and they defeated the Baltimore Ravens. I can't remember the score, Bucky. I want to say 20-10. It doesn't sound right. But it was not a high 2017. Maybe it was not a high scoring game. Chiefs scored early, then nobody scored at all in the second half, if I remember right. So there was a time where it could have been the Chiefs versus Lions, my brother's team. So congratulations to the Chiefs and my brother. He's getting spoiled because it's 5th out of 6 years they're going to the Super Bowl, something like that. Ridiculous. But, enjoy the ride, because you never have another one like this. More than likely you won't. And there was a time when they could have faced each other. That would have been interesting. Um, how much I would have spent on merchandise the Lions had won. One thing that bothered me was Campbell said we got two. This is after last week's win. He said we got 2 more wins. You got 1 more win. You got fully concentrate on the first one, because you ain't getting the second one if you don't get the first. So that concerned me a little bit, because I purposely did not get ahead of myself. But it's a good overall season. They finished 29th next year in the draft, because the Baltimore had a better record than they did. They got a lot of money in free agent money. They got a lot of guys who won't be back, but they also have some of their own guys they have to sign, like Amon-Ra and Penei Sewell. Jared Goff should get a contract. So, you got to take care of their own, but they need help. And that's the other microcosm, because the two areas where they failed the most was cornerback and defensive end. How many times have I said that on these videos? Probably a ton. And it showed up. Cornerbacks played terrible yesterday. Cam Sutton, they signed him for 3 years, which I forgot. Just, it was always behind, always grabbing, air as Suki walks by the camera. That was Suki. Constantly getting beat. He was just horrible. And, but, even Hutch had 0 tackles. He had 1 pass batted down, a couple hurries, and that was it. No tackles for Hutch. Obviously, no sacks. They had 2 sacks, I believe, but none from him. Running backs, they should have ran the ball more, which is another part of their microcosm. They should have ran the ball. They were very successful, and they got away from it in the second half, trying to get too cute. They had some reverses and trick plays, which are all fine, but they should have just kept pounding the ball. And Atsuki scratching her neck with her tags. But they got away from the running game, and Goff wasn't overly sharp, so they kind of just, they gave him, and they fumbled the ball, which is a huge turnaround in that game. Fernandez had just scored, and the Lions got back, and I think 1 or 2 plays later, I think Gibbs fumbled the ball as a bad handoff, and, Fernandez got right back into it, and hi, Suki. Suki. I'm getting the bath from Suki. Okay, thank you. There she is. Say hi. No, don't lay down in front of the camera. Suki. That's okay. You can lay there if you want. All right. So, there she goes. But, yeah, so turnovers, missed tackles, drop passes, questionable coaching. It just all came together in one game. And, but you have to give the Niners credit. So I watched some of the, YouTube stuff and see what people are saying, but I just, I don't want to relive it, because it's still fresh in my mind, and I don't need to hear about it again. So in 2 weeks, the Chiefs and the Niners, and people are probably getting tired of the Chiefs being in the Super Bowl all the time. It's in Vegas, a great format for a Super Bowl, but now last week's video, if I remember checking, it was 24, which is very good for me, actually. This one I got a late start. I just didn't quite feel like doing it, but we had to get it done. And so now it's free agency. The Senior Bowl is this Saturday. I think the East-West Shrine game is coming up too. It might be even sooner than that. So there's, I'll be watching that, either tape it or watch it live. And, free agency's coming up. And Lions will either sign a big-time corner and or a defensive end. Probably one of the two. There'll be, wide receivers out there they could really use. And I'm thinking Mike Evans comes to mind. And then they'll draft the other position in the first round. It's going to be late. Obviously, like I said, 29th. But there'll still be a lot of good players available. And the defensive end and corner are the number one needs. The offensive lines are going to need a little bit of help, either especially at guard. Offensive line played pretty well. They got a couple sacks, but that's San Francisco had a very good rush defense, I should say, and so I wouldn't be surprised to get that. But there's options, and there's different ways. It's a free agency. You fill needs. Draft, you fill either position or best player available. You don't try not to do that for needs. Although I'm not as adamant against that as a lot of people are, because it just might so happen that's what you need and that's what's available. So but a lot of Suki today. But it was a long season. It was very good. I'm very disappointed they didn't get to the Super Bowl, but they're in good position for next year. They might lose one or two, probably one of their offensive coordinators. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, he's favored for Washington, but they got interviews with both. I think Seattle's the other team, so they got in both offensive and defensive coaches have interviews with one or both teams. So they're probably going to lose one in the next, I'll say, 48 hours. I'll post it on my video if they do. But otherwise, not much else going on. Hawks are, whatever. Not much going on there. The Shrine Bowl's coming up. That's always a good source of talent and of research, as well as the East-West Shrine game. And so now it's all about the draft. Super Bowls, we'll see what happens with that. But as far as Lions news, it's all about the draft and free agency, and try their best to get there again next year. And this year, next year they'll have playoff experience, which a lot of they didn't have this year. And but they got to do something with the secondary, defensive end. Like I mentioned before, defensive tackle wouldn't be the worst either. Offensive line, a burner wide. Well, they have a burner wide receiver, but I like a big, tall receiver. That's why I like Mike Evans would be perfect for this team. But they will make noise in the off season, and of course we'll keep you up to date with that, Bucky, and we'll see what happens. But I'm very proud of my team. They kind of blew it at the end. It wasn't one person. It wasn't one play. It was a combination. Missed tackling, dropped balls, questionable coaching decisions. It was all of them combined. And throwing, San Francisco is a great team. So we're rooting for the Chiefs, even though they keep winning. But my brother's a Chiefs fan, so might as well get as many as you can, bro. So, and I think that's about it, Bucky. I can't think of anything else. Weather's been pretty nice here. Snow. We still have a little bit of snow left, but it's melting quickly. And it should be in the 50s most of this week. So that's great because I'm sick of winter. So, all right. So, for Mike C, of course, Star Show, as always, it's Bucky. Say bye, Bucky. Bucky says bye. And take care, and we'll get back to you next week. And if any news pops up, I will post it on this video. And that's about it. All right. Bye now.